The hospital cafeteria smelled like burnt coffee and antiseptic when Paige Thompson realized she was falling for a man who lived 3,000 miles away. She had not planned it this way. Nobody plans to fall in love with someone across the country, especially when your life is already complicated enough. At 26, Paige worked as a pediatric nurse in Boston, pulling double shifts most weeks because the children's ward was perpetually understaffed. Her days blurred together in a rhythm of medication schedules, worried parents, and the resilient smiles of sick kids who somehow found joy in the smallest things. The dating apps on her phone had gone untouched for months. Her last relationship had ended badly, her ex-boyfriend complaining that she cared more about her patients than him. He was probably right. When a 7-year-old with leukemia asked you to read them one more story before bed, you did not check your watch and think about dinner reservations. The conference invitation had arrived in March. A pediatric care symposium in Seattle, all expenses paid for select nurses nationwide. Paige almost deleted the email, but her supervisor encouraged her to apply. "You need a break," Margaret had said, her weathered hands sorting through patient charts. "Even if it's just a few days pretending to pay attention to PowerPoint presentations." Paige went. The flight to Seattle took 6 hours, and she spent most of it reading medical journals, preparing herself to network with other exhausted nurses who probably wanted a break as much as she did. That is where she met Connor Kane. The meet-cute happened in the most unglamorous way possible. Paige had gotten lost trying to find the conference hall in the massive hotel, turned down the wrong corridor, and literally collided with someone carrying 2 cups of coffee. The hot liquid splashed across both of them, and Paige immediately started apologizing, grabbing napkins from her bag while mortification heated her cheeks. "I am so sorry. I was not watching where I was going. I can pay for dry cleaning. Hey, it is okay." His voice was deep, calming, with a hint of amusement. "I should have been looking too." Paige finally looked up at him. He was tall, probably 6'2", with dark hair that looked professionally styled but was now slightly disheveled. His blue eyes held genuine kindness rather than irritation, and his navy suit probably cost more than her monthly rent. Even with coffee stains spreading across his shirt, he looked composed. "I really am sorry," she said again, still dabbing uselessly at his jacket. "Are you here for the medical conference?" "Not exactly." He smiled, and it transformed his whole face from handsome to devastating. "Business meeting upstairs, though right now I am reconsidering my coffee-carrying abilities." Something about his self-deprecating tone made her relax. "If it helps, I was completely at fault. I have the directional sense of a goldfish." "Looking for the conference hall. How did you guess?" "You have that slightly panicked look of someone running late for a professional obligation." He gestured down the hallway. "It is back that way. Take 2 lefts and a right. Cannot miss it. Thank you." Paige hesitated, something sparking between them in that brief moment. "And sorry again about the coffee. Worth it for the introduction." He extended his hand. "Connor, Paige." His handshake was firm, confident, his palm warm against hers. She made it to her conference session 5 minutes late, but she could not stop thinking about the blue-eyed stranger with the kind smile. It seemed like a fleeting moment, the type of brief encounter you might remember fondly but never repeat. Except that evening, she saw him again at the hotel bar. Paige had planned to order room service and fall asleep to whatever mindless TV show she could find. But her roommate for the conference, another nurse named Lisa, convinced her to come down for one drink. The bar was dimly lit, elegant in the way that hotel bars try too hard to be, and there he was, sitting alone at the counter, tie loosened, looking at his phone. "Is that coffee spill guy?" Lisa whispered, following Paige's gaze. Maybe. He is gorgeous. Go talk to him. I am not going to, but Lisa was already pushing her forward, and suddenly Paige was standing next to Connor, her heart doing something stupid in her chest. He looked up and recognition flashed across his face, followed by genuine pleasure. The goldfish, the coffee victim. She gestured to the empty seat beside him. Mind if I join you, or are you waiting for someone? Just me and my phone, please. He signaled the bartender. What are you drinking? White wine. Something cheap. He ordered her a glass of Chardonnay that was definitely not cheap, and they fell into conversation as easily as old friends. Connor had that rare quality of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. He asked questions and actually listened to the answers, his attention never wandering. So pediatric nursing, he said, swirling his whiskey. That must be incredibly difficult. It is. Paige took a sip of wine. But it is also the most rewarding thing I have ever done. Kids are resilient in ways adults forget how to be. They find joy in everything, even when they are sick. Yesterday, one of my patients, this 8-year-old boy with cystic fibrosis, made me a drawing of a superhero nurse. That is why I do it. Connor's expression softened. That is beautiful. The world needs more people like you. What about you? What brings you to Seattle? I own a chain of sporting goods stores. He said it casually, like it was no big deal. Started with one location in San Diego 10 years ago. Now we have about 40 locations across the West Coast. I was meeting with potential investors to expand into the Northwest. That is impressive. It is exhausting, he laughed, but there was real tiredness behind it. I love what I do, but sometimes I forget what it is like to have a conversation that is not about profit margins and market expansion. They talked for 2 hours. Paige learned that Connor was 31, that he had started his business after playing college baseball and realizing he loved the sport, but not professionally, that his parents were retired teachers in San Diego, that he had a younger sister who was a marine biologist. He was thoughtful, funny in an understated way, and surprisingly humble for someone who clearly had significant success. When Paige mentioned she was from Boston, something flickered in his eyes. Long way from home. Yeah, you are in San Diego, right? Most of the time. Though I travel constantly for work. The geography hung between them, unspoken but significant. 3,000 miles. Different lives in different cities. Lisa eventually came to collect Paige, giving Connor an obvious once-over before dragging her friend away. You have a morning session at 8, she reminded her. Connor stood as Paige gathered her things. Can I see you tomorrow? Maybe dinner after your conference ends. Paige knew it was probably a bad idea. He lived in California. She lived in Massachusetts. But his blue eyes were hopeful, and something in her chest was saying yes before her brain caught up. I would like that. Dinner turned into 3 hours at a waterfront restaurant where they shared Dungeness crab and talked about everything. Connor told her about building his business from the ground up, the failures and near bankruptcies that almost destroyed him, the slow climb to success. Paige shared stories from the hospital, the heartbreaks and triumphs, the children who stayed with her long after they were discharged. I almost quit nursing school, she admitted, the wine making her honest. Second year I had a patient die, a little girl only 4 years old, brain tumor. I held her mother while she sobbed, and I thought, I cannot do this. I cannot watch children die. But you stayed. My supervisor told me something I will never forget. She said the greatest gift you can give someone in their darkest moment is to be present with them in it. Not to fix it, not to make it better, but just to be there. Paige met his eyes across the table. So I stayed. And most days my kids get better. They go home. They live full lives. That is worth the hard days. Connor reached across the table and took her hand. The touch was electric, intentional. "You are extraordinary, Paige Thompson." They walked along the waterfront after dinner, the Seattle skyline glittering across the water. The April air was cool, and when Paige shivered, Connor draped his jacket over her shoulders without being asked. It smelled like expensive cologne and something uniquely him. "I do not usually do this," Paige said as they paused at a railing overlooking the water. "Do what? This? Connect with someone like this. I work all the time, I do not date much, and when I do, it is usually disappointing, but this feels different." Connor turned to face her fully. "It feels different to me too. I have not had a conversation this real in longer than I can remember. Most people either want something from me or they see the business and not the person. You see me. I do see you." The words came out softer than she intended. He kissed her then, gentle and questioning, giving her space to pull away. Paige did not pull away. She leaned in, her hands finding his shoulders, and the kiss deepened into something that made her forget about the cold, the city. Everything except the feeling of finally connecting with someone who understood. When they broke apart, Connor rested his forehead against hers. "What are we doing?" "You are leaving in 2 days." "I do not know." Paige's voice was barely a whisper, "but I do not want to stop." They spent every free moment together for the rest of the conference. Connor rearranged his meetings. Paige skipped optional workshops. They had breakfast together, lunch when she could steal away, long dinners that stretched into midnight. It was intense and fast and completely irrational, but it felt more right than anything Paige had experienced. On her last night in Seattle, they lay in Connor's hotel room, tangled in expensive sheets, the city lights casting shadows across the ceiling. His arm was around her shoulders, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "I do not want you to go," he said into the darkness. "I do not want to go either." Paige traced patterns on his skin. "But I have patients who need me, and you have a business to run. We could make this work. People do long-distance relationships, Connor." She propped herself up to look at him. "You are in San Diego, I am in Boston. That is the entire country between us. I know the geography." His jaw set in determination. "But I also know that I have not felt this way about anyone in years, maybe ever, and I am not ready to walk away just because it is complicated. It is more than complicated, it is nearly impossible." "Nothing worthwhile is easy, Paige." He cupped her face in his hands. "Give us a chance. Real chance. We can visit each other, video calls. I travel for business anyway. I can arrange trips to the East Coast." Paige wanted to be practical, to protect her heart, to make the smart choice. But looking into his eyes, feeling the way her whole body responded to his touch, she could not say no. "Okay, we will try." His smile was brilliant, relieved. Yeah, but Connor, I need you to understand. My job is demanding. I cannot always drop everything. Kids in the hospital do not care about my relationship status. I know. And I would never ask you to choose between me and your calling. We will figure it out together. The first month was harder than either of them anticipated. The 3-hour time difference meant that when Paige got off her shift at 7 p.m. Eastern, it was only 4 p.m. in California, and Connor was usually in meetings. They texted constantly, little messages throughout the day. "Good morning. Thinking of you. One of my patients drew me another superhero picture. Rough day, but your voice would make it better." Their first video call was awkward, both of them trying too hard, the conversation stilted by the technology barrier. But the second was better, and by the third, they found their rhythm. Paige would curl up in bed with her laptop, and Connor would do the same, and they would talk for hours about their days, their hopes, their fears. "I miss touching you," Connor said one night in May, his voice rough with longing. "I miss the way you fit against me. I miss that too." Paige pulled her blanket tighter around her shoulders. I miss your laugh. The way you look at me like I am the most interesting person in the world. You are the most interesting person in my world. The first visit happened in early June. Connor flew to Boston for a long weekend, arriving on a Thursday evening. Paige met him at the airport, and when she saw him walking through arrivals, something in her chest unlocked. He dropped his bag and pulled her into his arms, and it felt like coming home. You are really here, she breathed against his neck. I am really here. She showed him her Boston. They walked the Freedom Trail, ate cannoli in the North End, watched street performers in Quincy Market. Connor was fascinated by the history, asking questions about every landmark. But mostly he was fascinated by her. He held her hand constantly, pulled her close on the subway, kissed her forehead at random moments. I want to see where you work, he said over dinner at a small Italian restaurant. The hospital? Yeah, it is such a huge part of your life. I want to understand it better. So Paige took him on her next shift. She cleared it with her supervisor first, and Connor spent 3 hours shadowing her through the pediatric ward. He was remarkably natural with the kids, crouching down to their level, asking about their drawings, making them laugh with terrible jokes. One little boy, 6 years old and recovering from appendix surgery, challenged Connor to a video game battle. Connor accepted solemnly, and they played for 20 minutes while Paige checked vitals on other patients. Watching him with those children, seeing his genuine care and attention, Paige fell even deeper in love. That night, tangled together in her small apartment, Connor pulled her close. Those kids adore you. I saw the way they lit up when you walked in the room. They are my world, Paige said simply. Every single one of them, I know. And I love that about you. He kissed her slowly, thoroughly. I am falling in love with you, Paige. Actually, I think I already fell. Past tense. Her heart stopped, restarted, raced. I love you too. I have been trying not to say it because it seems too fast, too impossible given the distance, but I do. I love you. Nothing about us has been conventional. Why start now? The goodbye at the airport on Sunday was brutal. Paige cried, not caring who saw, clinging to Connor like he was a life raft in a storm. 2 weeks, he promised. I will be back in 2 weeks. I am scheduling a meeting with a potential supplier in Connecticut. I will drive down to see you. 2 weeks feels like forever. I know, baby, I know. But 2 weeks became 3 because of an emergency at one of Connor's stores. Then 4 because Paige picked up extra shifts to cover for a colleague on maternity leave. The video calls became more frequent, but also more frustrating. They could see each other, but not touch. They could talk but not feel the warmth of physical presence. This is killing me, Paige admitted one night in July. She had just finished a particularly difficult shift, losing a patient for the first time in months. A teenage girl with heart complications. Paige had held it together at the hospital, but now, alone in her apartment, she was falling apart. Connor's face on the screen was anguished. I wish I could be there. I wish I could hold you. I need you. The words came out broken. I need more than phone calls and video chats. I need you here. I am looking at flights right now. I can be there tomorrow morning. You have meetings. I know you have meetings all week. Nothing is more important than you, Paige. Nothing. He came. He pushed back everything and took a red-eye flight, arriving at her door at 6 a.m. looking exhausted and perfect. Paige fell into his arms and cried while he held her, murmuring reassurances, stroking her hair. I am here. I am right here. He stayed for 5 days, working remotely from her apartment while she did her shifts. They cooked together in her tiny kitchen, watched old movies on her couch, made love like they were trying to memorize each other. And they talked about the reality of their situation. I cannot keep doing this, Paige said on his last night there. They were on her balcony watching the city lights. "The distance is destroying me. I miss you every single day. I go to work and I am professional and capable, but underneath, I am constantly aching for you." Connor's jaw tightened. "What are you saying?" "I do not know what I am saying. I just know this is harder than I thought it would be." "Do you want to end it?" "No." The answer was immediate, fierce. "I love you, but I do not know how to keep doing this. How do we build a life together when we are living on opposite sides of the country?" He was quiet for a long moment, his hand tightening around hers. "What if one of us moved?" Paige's heart stuttered. "What? What if I moved to Boston? Or you moved to San Diego? I know it is a huge ask. I know your job is important and my business is in California. But Paige, I cannot imagine my life without you anymore. These months have been the happiest and hardest of my life. Happy because of you. Hard because you are not with me every day. You would move here, leave your business. I can run my business from anywhere. Most of what I do is digital anyway. I have great managers in every location. I would need to travel back frequently, but I could make Boston my home base. If that is what you want. If that is what we need to make this work." Tears were streaming down Paige's face. "I cannot ask you to uproot your entire life for me. You are not asking. I am offering." He turned to face her fully, his blue eyes intense. "I love you, Paige Thompson. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to be here when you have hard days at work. I want to build a real life with you, not just stolen weekends and video calls. So yeah, I will move to Boston. Gladly. What about San Diego? Your family? Your whole world is there. My whole world is sitting right in front of me." He wiped her tears with his thumbs. "Everything else is just details we can work out." But moving was not as simple as they hoped. Connor started the process in August, looking at apartments in Boston, setting up remote operations for his business. But problems kept arising. One of his store managers quit unexpectedly. A supplier deal fell through. His business partner expressed serious concerns about Connor being across the country. The stress showed in their calls. Connor looked increasingly tired, the weight of his decision pressing on him. Paige felt guilty, like she was the reason his life was falling apart. "Maybe this was a mistake," she said in early September. "Maybe we are trying to force something that is not meant to be." "Do not say that." Connor's voice was sharp. "Do not you dare say that. Look at you. You are miserable. Your business is struggling because you are trying to move it. I am making you sacrifice everything. You are not making me do anything. I am choosing this. I am choosing us." "But at what cost, Connor? You have worked for 10 years building that company." "I cannot be the reason it falls apart." "It is not falling apart. It is just complicated right now. These are growing pains. Or they are signs that this cannot work." They fought for the first time that night, both of them exhausted and scared and lashing out. Connor accused Paige of looking for reasons to push him away. Paige accused Connor of being reckless with his business. They said things they did not mean, words sharpened by distance and frustration. The call ended badly, both of them hanging up angry and hurt. Paige did not sleep that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word. By morning she felt hollow, convinced she had ruined the best thing in her life. But when she checked her phone, there were 17 messages from Connor. "I am sorry. I should not have yelled. You are right that I am stressed, but that is not your fault. I love you. Please call me. Paige, I am losing my mind here. Please do not give up on us. I cannot lose you. You are the best thing that has ever happened to me. Please." She called him immediately. He answered on the first ring. "I am so sorry," they both said at the same time. "This is hard," Connor continued, his voice thick with emotion. "It is the hardest thing I have ever done. But Paige, that does not mean it is wrong. Hard and wrong are not the same thing. I know I am scared. I am scared of asking too much from you. I am scared of losing you. I am scared that the distance is going to destroy us before we even have a real chance. The distance is not our enemy. Fear is. We cannot let fear make our decisions. Then what do? We trust each other. We trust what we have, and we stop trying to have all the answers right now. I am going to keep working on moving east. You are going to keep saving lives, and we are going to love each other through the complications. Can you do that? Yes, Paige's voice steadied. I can do that. Something shifted after that conversation. They stopped trying to fix everything immediately and started accepting the reality of their situation. Yes, it was hard. Yes, they missed each other constantly. But the love was real, and that was worth fighting for. Connor did not move to Boston that fall, but he started spending 2 weeks out of every month there. He rented a small apartment near Paige's place, set up a home office, and managed his business remotely. It was not perfect, but it worked. They fell into a routine. Morning coffee together before Paige's shifts. Dinners when she got home. Weekends exploring the city or simply being together. Paige met his family via video call in October, a chaotic dinner where Connor's parents and sister all talked over each other, clearly loving and loud. His mother cried when Connor told them about Paige, said she had never seen her son so happy. "You are good for him," his father said, his weathered face kind on the screen. "He is lighter now. That business was consuming him before you came along." Connor brought Paige to San Diego for Thanksgiving, and she finally saw his world in person. His house was beautiful, modern but warm, overlooking the ocean. His business headquarters was impressive, a bustling operation that clearly required his attention. But what struck Paige most was seeing Connor in his element. He was confident, decisive, respected by his employees. This was the empire he had built from nothing. "Now you understand why I was scared," she said that night, standing on his deck watching the sunset. "This is huge, Connor. What you have here is huge, and I am asking you to leave it. You are not asking me to leave it. I am choosing to bring you into it. My business will be fine. What would not be fine is living without you." He pulled her against his chest, his chin resting on her head. "Do you know what I have learned these past few months?" "What?" "That success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. I spent years building this company, thinking it would make me happy. And it did, to a point. But Paige, being with you makes me happier than any business deal ever has. You make me want to be better, to do more, to live fuller. That is worth any sacrifice." Paige turned in his arms, looking up at him. "I love you, so much it terrifies me sometimes." "Good terrified or bad terrified?" "Good, definitely good." By December, they had been together for 8 months, though it felt like both a lifetime and no time at all. The distance was still challenging, but they had learned to navigate it. They had their routines, their ways of staying connected. Connor had promoted his business partner to handle more day-to-day operations in California, allowing him to spend more time in Boston. Paige had started thinking about the future, about what it would look like when Connor finally made the permanent move east. Then Connor showed up at the hospital on a random Tuesday afternoon in mid-December. Paige was charting medication when Margaret found her. "Someone is here to see you. Waiting room. I am in the middle of my shift. He seems important. Tall, handsome, looks like he walked out of a magazine." Margaret smiled knowingly. "I will cover your patients for 20 minutes. Connor was standing by the window, wearing a dark coat over his usual business attire, holding a bouquet of white roses. When he saw her, his whole face lit up. "What are you doing here?" "I thought you were in San Diego all week." "I was. I took a red eye. I needed to see you. Is everything okay?" Worry spiked through her. "Everything is more than okay." He took her hands, the roses forgotten on a nearby chair. "I made a decision." Actually, I made it months ago, but now it is official. What decision? I am moving to Boston. Permanently. I signed a lease on an apartment today. A real apartment, not the temporary rental. I promoted Marcus to CEO of the California operations. I will still be involved, still travel back for board meetings and major decisions, but my home is going to be here. With you. Paige felt tears spring to her eyes. Connor, are you sure? I have never been more sure of anything. These months of going back and forth have shown me something crucial. Distance does not weaken what we have. It makes it stronger. Every time I leave you, I am more certain that you are my person. Every time we are apart, I appreciate our time together more. And I am done with the separation. I want to be here. I want to build a life with you. But your business, your life in California, my business will thrive because I have incredible people running it. My life is wherever you are. He cupped her face in his hands. These miles between us have not made me doubt us. They have made me absolutely certain that what we have is real and worth everything. I love you, Paige. I want every day with you, not just stolen weeks. She kissed him then, not caring that they were in a hospital waiting room, not caring who saw. She poured 8 months of longing and love and gratitude into that kiss. When they finally broke apart, Connor was grinning. Is that a yes? You are okay with me moving here? I am more than okay. I am thrilled. But Connor, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you will not resent this decision. Promise me that if you miss California, if you miss being there full time, you will tell me. I do not want you to sacrifice your happiness for mine. Paige. His voice was gentle but firm. You are my happiness. Everything else is just logistics. I promise you, this is what I want. You are what I want. Connor moved to Boston in January, exactly 1 year after Paige had attended that conference in Seattle. His new apartment was in her neighborhood, a spacious 2-bedroom that he insisted she help decorate. They spent weekends at furniture stores, arguing playfully about couches and coffee tables, building a space that felt like both of them. The real test came in February, when Connor had to return to San Diego for a week-long series of meetings. Paige worried that being back in California would make him regret his decision. But when he called her from his hotel room that first night, he sounded relieved rather than wistful. It is strange being back, he admitted. This place used to feel like home. Now it just feels like a business trip. You are sure you do not miss it? I miss the weather. I miss the ocean. But Paige, I do not miss living here without you. That is the difference. I would rather have cold Boston winters with you than perfect San Diego weather alone. They settled into their life together. Connor worked from his apartment most days, flying to California once a month. Paige continued her nursing, still passionate about her work, but now coming home to someone who understood when she had hard days. They cooked together, explored Boston restaurants, took weekend trips to Cape Cod and Vermont. They fought occasionally, normal couple disagreements about dishes or schedules, but they always worked through it. The distance that once threatened to tear them apart had actually strengthened their foundation. They had learned to communicate deeply, to prioritize each other, to appreciate their time together. They did not take each other for granted because they had known what it was like to be apart. In April, Connor took her back to Seattle. Why Seattle? Paige asked as they boarded the plane. You will see. He booked them into the same hotel where they had met. They had dinner at the same waterfront restaurant, walked the same path along the water. It was nostalgic and sweet, remembering those first days when everything was new and uncertain. On their last night there, Connor took her to the exact spot where they had first kissed. The Seattle skyline sparkled across the water, the spring air cool but not cold. Connor pulled her close and Paige rested her head on his shoulder, perfectly content. Do you remember what I said to you here? Connor asked softly. You said it felt different with me. It did. It does. He stepped back, and Paige's heart began to race because there was something in his expression, something nervous and hopeful and intense. You have changed my entire life, Paige. Before you, I was successful but lonely. I had built a business but not a life. You taught me what really matters. Connor. Her voice came out as a whisper because suddenly she knew what was happening. He was getting down on one knee. I brought you back here because this is where our story really began, where I first kissed you and knew nothing would ever be the same. Paige Thompson, I love you more than I thought it was possible to love someone. Will you marry me? The ring was perfect, a simple diamond that caught the city lights. But Paige was not looking at the ring. She was looking at Connor, this incredible man who had rearranged his entire life to be with her, who had proven that love was stronger than distance. Yes, yes, of course, yes. He stood and kissed her, and the city faded away until it was just the two of them, exactly as it should be. They got married in September, a year and a half after that first meeting. The wedding was in Boston, a small ceremony with family and close friends. Connor's parents flew in from California. Paige's parents, who had been skeptical of the long-distance relationship at first, welcomed Connor with open arms once they saw how he looked at their daughter. Margaret from the hospital gave a speech about how Paige had been going through the motions before Connor, good at her job but missing something vital in her personal life. Then she came back from that Seattle conference glowing, Margaret said, her eyes bright with tears. And I knew some man had finally gotten through to our Paige. Thank you, Connor, for making her so happy. Connor's best man, his business partner Marcus, told stories about how Connor had been impossible to work with after meeting Paige, constantly distracted, checking his phone every 5 minutes. I wanted to hate you, Marcus joked, looking at Paige. You were destroying his focus. But then I met you and understood completely. Some people are worth being distracted for. In his vows, Connor spoke about miles and distance and strength. I thought the distance between us would be our biggest challenge, he said, holding both of Paige's hands, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. But it turned out to be our greatest gift. It taught us to fight for each other, to communicate completely, to never take a single moment together for granted. Every mile apart made me more certain that you are my forever. Paige cried through her entire vow, barely getting the words out. You taught me that love is not about convenience or proximity. It is about choosing someone every single day, even when it is hard, even when it would be easier to walk away. You chose me from 3,000 miles away. You rearranged your whole life for us. I promised to spend the rest of my life showing you that it was worth it. They honeymooned in Italy, 2 weeks of wine and history and uninterrupted time together. Connor was completely offline, his phone turned off, his business running smoothly without him. They wandered through Rome, ate their way through Tuscany, and got lost in Venice. I think this is my favorite part, Paige said one evening as they watched the sunset from their hotel balcony in Florence. Not being apart anymore, not counting down the days until we see each other again. Just being together all the time. Connor pulled her onto his lap, wrapping his arms around her waist. I never want to be apart from you again, even for work trips. Come with me sometimes. I have patience, I know, but sometimes, when you can take time off, sometimes. She kissed him softly. I love you. I love our life. Our life is just getting started. When they returned to Boston, they started looking for a house. Something big enough for the family they both wanted eventually, but cozy enough to feel like home. They found it in October, a Victorian-style house with a backyard and a front porch in a neighborhood with good schools. Already thinking about schools, Paige teased as they toured the house for the third time. Maybe. Connor looked a bit sheepish. Is that crazy? No, I want that too. Kids. A family with you. They moved into the house in November, spending their first holidays as a married couple in their own home. Connor flew to California for business regularly, but always came back within a few days. California is work, he told Paige whenever she asked if he missed it. Boston is home. You are home. Paige got pregnant the following spring. They had been trying, hoping, and when the test came back positive, Connor cried. He was terrified and thrilled in equal measure, already planning the nursery and reading parenting books. Paige watched him with wonder, this strong, capable man reduced to emotional chaos by the thought of becoming a father. "What if I am terrible at this?" he asked one night, his hand on her still flat stomach. "You will be amazing. I have seen you with my patients. Kids love you." "That is different. Those are not my kids. This is our baby. What if I mess it up?" "Then we will mess it up together." She took his face in her hands. "Connor, we have handled long-distance career changes, building a life across the country. We can handle a baby." Their daughter was born in January, 3 years exactly from when they met. They named her Sophia, and she was perfect, tiny and loud and completely transforming their world. Connor was a natural father, patient and loving, waking up for midnight feedings without complaint. Paige watched him rock Sophia to sleep and fell in love with him all over again. "You ever regret it?" she asked one night when Sophia was 2 months old. They were exhausted, covered in spit up, their house a disaster of baby equipment. "Moving across the country, changing your whole life." Connor looked at her like she had grown a second head. "Are you kidding? Paige, look at what I have now, a wife I adore, a daughter who is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen, a home filled with love. I would make that move 1,000 times over, even though it was hard." All those months of distance and difficulty, especially because it was hard. He reached over and took her hand, Sophia sleeping peacefully in his other arm. "The distance taught us how to be strong together. It proved that what we have is real enough to survive anything. Those miles did not weaken us. They made us unbreakable." Paige leaned her head on his shoulder, watching their daughter sleep, feeling the weight of gratitude and love. Connor was right. The distance that should have destroyed them had actually built something stronger than either of them could have imagined. They had chosen each other across thousands of miles, had fought through every obstacle, had built a life that was messy and beautiful and entirely theirs. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you more." Connor kissed the top of her head. "Thank you for being worth the journey." Years later, when Sophia was 5 and they had added a son named Daniel to their family, Paige would look back on those early days with fondness rather than pain. The long-distance relationship that terrified her had actually been the best thing that could have happened. It forced them to build a foundation of communication and trust, to prove their commitment before life got complicated with mortgages and children, and all the daily chaos of marriage. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Connor took her back to Seattle again. They walked the same waterfront path, older now, marked by life and parenthood, but still completely in love. 10 years, Connor said, pulling her close at the railing where he had proposed. "Best decade of my life." Even the hard parts, especially the hard parts, they brought us here. Paige looked at her husband, this man who had crossed a country for her, who had proven that love was not about convenience but commitment. "The miles made us stronger. They really did." Connor kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. "And I would do it all again. Every single mile, every hard day, all of it, because it led me to you." And standing there in the city where their story began, Paige knew with absolute certainty that some distances are meant to be crossed, that some challenges are meant to be overcome. and that true love does not weaken with miles but grows stronger with everyone.